Are we still in the morning?
Yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David B. Afful from the University of Limpopo in South Africa. And I'm going to share with you my presentation titled Public Extension Agents' Need for New Competencies, Evidence from Limpopo Province, South Africa. That's my presentation outline. By way of introduction, let me say that broad political and scientific consensus exists on the fact that climate change and variability is happening and will continue to happen well into the future. At least we have heard a few people talk about climate change here. I don't see them around here, but in the past 2 days we had a few people talk about climate change here. And agriculture in most places worldwide, including Southern Africa, is expected to be most negatively affected by climate change and variability. And this problem is that a large proportion of South Africa's agricultural production, especially by smallholder producers, depends on rainfall. And the importance of extension in farmers' use is widely acknowledged worldwide. And as a result of this, the South African government has taken note of that and has mandated public extension to help small farmers achieve household food security. Extension agents' competencies and support for farmers' production is therefore very critical, especially under the variable climate of smallholder farmers' production systems. However, most observers of and extension practitioners have commented on the overall poor performance of public agriculture extension, especially in developing countries. As far back as 2005, the South African Department of Agriculture noted serious problems in respect of efficiency and relevance of the public extension system. And at that time, they indicated that by 2010, they expect about 60% of the agricultural advisory service officers to have a minimum qualification of bachelor's degree. About 2 or 3 years ago, Terre Blanchetta made comments to show that the situation has not improved yet, and they commented on shortcomings in extension skills and agricultural science training among full-level extension practitioners in the country, that's South Africa. So the purpose of the study was to determine the technical competency of extension agents of the Limpopo Provincial Department of Agriculture Extension Service to support smallholder dryland grain farmers' production in light of climate variability and effectiveness of the strategies promoted in this regard. The central study hypothesis was field-level extension agents of the Limpopo Department of Agriculture lack the requisite technical competencies to effectively support farmers' production to cope with climate variability. So the study objectives were, one, to assess the field-level extension agents' academic qualifications needed to support smallholder grain farmers' production in light of climate variability. Two, to determine the climate variability coping and adaptation strategies promoted by the Public Extension Service to support farmers' crop production. And 3, to assess the effectiveness of the public extension support, including climate variability coping and adaptation strategies promoted for dryland smallholder grain producers' crop production. Literature review. It has been noted that competencies serve as the foundation of organizations such as agriculture extension to deliver the needed programs and improve its value to communities. There is also convergent views on the fact that core competencies are critical for the success of various professionals and the future of extension. As far back as 2010, Hada et al. Found that technical competencies are among the critical competencies needed by entry-level extension professionals, and these technical competencies are also needed by agents for climate variability mitigation to support smallholder producers' agricultural production. There is also a wide acclaim of the positive impacts of conservation agriculture on crop production in both developed and developing countries. Now, conservation agriculture here, we're thinking of conservation tillage, which might be minimum or no-till use of crop rotations, cover crops, mulch, use of herbicides. And some of these impacts of conservation agriculture include improved soil moisture retention, increased soil fertility, improved crop yields, and financial rewards. However, Gilead have also commented on the fact that sometimes conservation agriculture leads to reduced yields, and the fact that the practice has not been widely adopted in sub-Saharan Africa. Given the complexity of conservation agriculture management packages, there's need for high competency to establish soil and water conservation structures. So by means of conceptual framework of the study, the IPCC definition of vulnerability to climate change and variability was used to assess smallholders' crop farmers' grain production system. And here vulnerability is the extent to which a system is susceptible or vulnerable to adverse changes of climate. And in this work, I distinguish between climate change and variability. If you remember, the topic was about variability, climate variability, because climate change is very gradual, takes a long time, and you need scientific measurements to detect climate change. But with regard to variability, climate variability, we're looking at year-to-year fluctuations above a long-term climate or weather average, which is called the climatological normal. And so we are concentrated on climate variability and not climate change in this study. But I mentioned climate change here and there because of the conceptual frame, but the study is about the variability, because farmers have to recollect information, and we have given them a time period of the past 10 years, and therefore they are able to talk about variability and not climate change. So we make that distinction. So the definition of the IPCC for variability was used to assess smallholder farmers' crop production system because it embodies vulnerability as a function of the character, magnitude, and rate of climate variation to which a system is exposed, its sensitivity, and its adaptive capacity. Given constant levels of hazard over time, that's the exposure, the effectiveness of a household adaptation measure or measures will allow a system to reduce the risk associated with these hazards by reducing its social vulnerability. Following Nelson et al., the study therefore used the Sustainable Rural Livelihoods Framework as a conceptual framework to analyze the adaptive capacity of the farmer household to climate variability. And this Sustainable Livelihood Framework sees livelihood as a function of the number of assets a farming household will possess to be able to cope with adverse effects of climate change and variability in extreme conditions. The study adopted a multi-stage random sampling approach to select 2 districts, which were Capricorn and Sekune districts from 4 municipalities. These were Ahanan, Blueberg, Makuti Tabaha, and Sesekun, Blueberg, Ahanan, Makuti Tabaha. Then we also selected 194 smallholder maize and sorghum farmers. These are the grain farmers from 20 villages of Limpopo province. I'm sure you saw that map. Somebody put the Limpopo province up there. We are in the same province of South Africa, and it was done in January 2014. Data was collected using semi-structured questionnaires, and for the farmers, we did it through interviews. But for the extension officers and the managers, it was self-administered. Data collected from farmers include their capital assets. For example, the extension support received in the last 10 years of the study. For the agents, the information collected included demographic information, the type of climate variability and coping strategies promoted, and for the station managers, we wanted to know their views of the technical competency of the field level extension agents under their supervision regarding climate variability coping strategies that they promote to support farmers' crop production. The effectiveness of the coping and adaptation strategies promoted by the public extension agents to support crop farmers' food production was measured by public extension's contribution to household grain production. And this was achieved by a comparison of the yields obtained by those who received public extension support, including climate variability information, and those who did not in the year before the study. Empirical model specification, we use a linear multiple regression to assess the influence of several independent variables, including public extension, climate variable information, support to farmers' crop production. That's the model specification. And these are the independent variables: natural capital, social capital, human capital, financial, and physical capital. Natural capital includes proportion of cropping land suitable for crop production. Social capital includes access to extension support, access to market, and food aid. Human capital includes dependency ratio, which is number of people in the household who earn income relative to those who do not earn income. Years of schooling, number of climate variability training attended, years of farming. It's a problem. Years of farming, you have 2 years of schooling there. One is years of farming, years of schooling. Okay. Physical capital includes access to credit, livestock owned, and any form of insurance they have. That's of financial capital. And physical capital include ownership of cell phone, radio, television, computer, or irrigation water. So with regard to what we found, we see here that Figure 1 shows us that about 82% of extension managers said they do not have enough qualified public extension agents with the type of climate variability knowledge needed to support farmers' crop production. And we asked the managers, would you therefore support training for these kind of agents? And all of them said yes. With regard to agents' academic qualifications and knowledge of climate variability, we have Table 1 that shows the distribution of field level extension agents' qualification, and we find that half of those interviewed only had a diploma qualification. We further asked them whether the agents, whether they possess the requisite climate variability knowledge in terms of being able to support farmers with coping adaptation strategies, and about 61% said no, they do not have that knowledge. And we further asked them whether they would be prepared to undergo training to equip them with that training to be able to support farmers better, and all of them, about 94% said yes. We further tried to find out the type of climate variability coping and adaptation strategies they promote. And here again, we make a distinction between coping and adaptation. Coping here refers to responses needed in the short term to deal with climate variability issues, whereas adaptation, by that we mean responses needed in the long term to deal with climate stresses. And so Table 2 shows us that about 67% of those interviewed extension agents promote some form of conservation agriculture. And that is very significant there. But a few, about 35%, said they discourage farmers from deforestation as a form of adaptation measure in the long term. We further look at the effectiveness of extension support, including climate variability coping adaptation strategies, and Table 3 provides the percentage distribution of respondents' crop yields according to extension support. And if you look at the yield in terms of tons per hectare, as the yield increases, we find that we have more of those who use public extension coming in that group compared to those who did not. And we further look at the mean use of the same group, and we find again that those who use public extension, including climate variability information support, have a slightly higher mean yield of 0.845 compared to 0.548 of those who did not receive public extension support and climate variability support. We compare the statistical significance of the yield differences by means of independent t-tests, and we find that the results were significant. In other words, receiving public extension support, including climate variability information, contributes significantly to a yield difference. However, the magnitude of the difference between those who received support and those who did not was small, as shown by the eta squared, which is 0.05. And this finding is similar to what Asharafat et al. Found, among olive producers in Jordan. You have somebody here from Jordan that those who receive public extension support have slightly higher, yields than those who did not. In other words, found no difference, because we see the eta squared shows a small difference. It's almost the same as what they found. They found no difference, and here I'm saying the eta squared, which is small, meaning that although there's a difference, but the difference was almost small. Small. We further look for the evidence of the effect of public extension support, including climate variability information on farmers' food production by means of the multiple regression. And the regression analysis results show that contrary to the null hypothesis of no difference, we find that receiving public extension support, including climate variability information, contributes to yields of respondents. And here you have the multiple regression estimates. And if you look up there, you find that we had a number of variables under some of these capitals, a number of variables. But here you find only a few variables, because what we did was, if you look at the ANOVA here, which is 0.019, look at various analysis and try to look at which ANOVA could give us the best explanation of the results. And it was only this, with these few variables under those various capitals, that were able to give us a better explanation of the yield difference. And so you may not find all the variables under each capital there, because that was the best explanation. And so you find that only public extension has a p-value that is significant. So in conclusion, let me say that even though a small proportion of field level extension agents took part in the study, our findings provide some indication that 50% of field level extension agents in Limpopo province and Department of Agriculture are not qualified to provide management advice, including climate variability support to farmers, as indicated by the Department of Agriculture in the year 2005. Most field-level extension agents of the Department of Agriculture, Limpopo province, indicated promoting conservation agriculture as a form of coping strategy, whereas a few discouraged farmers from deforestation as an adaptation strategy. The effect of measures promoted, especially the coping measures promoted, on farmers' production was, however, minimal. So we recommend that there be a further training of current field-level extension agents in proper application of conservation agriculture through adaptive research that involves scientists, agents, and farmers to provide new technical competencies such as integrated management of available water, soil, and biological resources, to assess the local ecological and socioeconomic conditions under which conservation agriculture is suited for smallholder farming. Extension educators could also adopt a competency-based approach to curriculum development and intervention measures to prepare entry-level extension professionals for a practice in the real field of work. That is to help them to deal with climate variability issues. Finally, let me say that the widespread agreement on the positive relationship between employees' competencies and organizational or individual success makes it impossible for extension human resource managers, agriculture extension curriculum developers, and extension in-service trainers to ignore a competency approach to doing business. And I'd like to acknowledge that this presentation was made possible by the generous financial support of the Research Development Administration, the University of Limpopo, and the National Research Foundation. However, the contents are the authors and do not necessarily reflect the views of RDA or NRF. I say thank you.
Thank you, David, for your presentation. Questions or comments? Let me see those who want to. I've noted two. Okay, can start.
I had a question about the budget. So in Limpopo, is there a budget set out for this kind of research and development already?
For what kind of research and development?
I meant like the research and training of the agents.
Oh, sure.
It's just not enough?
Budgets everywhere, somebody will tell you it's not enough. But yes, there is money for training of extension officers, and the needs are many within every department, and therefore there is always not enough. But there is money for that,
So I guess there's like a push for maybe like public-private partnerships, because if there's investments into the agents that help the farmers, then there's a higher quality of crop or a higher yield.
Yeah.
And so it's like a cycle.
Yeah. I heard from somebody from California that there now extension agents have PhDs. Most of them have PhDs in California. And here, as far back as 2005, the department realized and they said, by 2010, we need about 60% to have a 4-year degree. We are not there yet. And so if the competency is not up to a certain standard, then we have a problem somewhere.
I have a question in regard to some smallholders had training with extension workers, other smallholders didn't. And there wasn't a very large difference between the yields in those two situations. Could that be undermined by the fact that the training given to one smallholder would in fact be transferred informally to other smallholders, so that everyone benefited, but the ones who had the direct training benefited more?
Yeah, not only that. So even further research needs to be able to isolate influence of other people providing extension support, not necessarily those from the government, yes, which might also influence those who do not receive from government. So your report is that concern is noted. Yeah, but I think the issue was that what the farmers were getting from the extension support was not even enough to make a significant difference. It was a difference, but the yield differences were too small. So yeah, they have contact with them, and but the knowledge and support provided did not really help them much. So that concern is noted as part of further analysis to sort out that kind of influence that might make the difference almost negligible. Yeah.
Any more comments? Okay. In absence of comment, comment? Yes.
I've just felt the invitation of asking a question.
Okay.
How technical competence is competency based on academic qualification?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying as far back as 2005, the Department of Agriculture said by 2010, they needed about 60% of the field level agents to have a 4-year degree, and they knew why they were saying that. And so you need to be on top of your game to be able to support. You can't have the blind leading the blind. You see? So I'm sure that's where you need to be on top of your game. Like I said, somebody told me yesterday, in California, they having extension agents have PhDs because they realize the difference it can make, in transfer of knowledge. And so you need to be technically competent to be able to, support the farmers. Academic qualification is one of them. If you remember one of the slides I said, 2010 had a said technical competency, in terms of qualifications, is very critical for entry-level extension practitioners. I don't know if we can talk after this, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, experience is there, but the point is that you can't be old dogs have to be taught new tricks. Old dogs have to be taught new tricks. Somebody told me in the department now the older guys are leaving the job because now they are introducing new issues regarding technology used by the station agents. Technology used by the station agents, and those guys cannot cope. Some of them are leaving the profession because this things are a bother to them. The new technology that they have to grapple with to be able to do their work. And they are leaving, the old guys are leaving. So that experience may be there, but you have to teach old dogs new tricks.
Yeah. Thank you. That has given me a round of
Yeah.
applause.